I got the driver. Hey. No, man. Acuéstate ahí. No, enseña la mano. You hit the bags? Here, boys.
So, body cam video of a shocking altercation between gang members and Border Patrol agents has been released. And it shows what happens when those tasked with keeping our country safe encounter some of the most dangerous criminals on the entire planet, who were busy trying to sneak contraband into Mexico using a pickup truck. And the shocking thing is, this isn't the only immigrant gang trying to arm itself with weapons they illegally obtain right here in America.
More than 24 members of a notorious Venezuelan gang here in New York City tonight have been indicted on a slew of federal charges. This comes as the Trump administration steps up its crackdown of gangs linked to immigrants.
2 Mexican citizens are facing federal charges after they were allegedly traveling in a car carrying 180,000 rounds of ammunition in southern Colorado. During that stop, officers found 180 boxes of ammunition, each of which contained 1,000 rounds.
He's a hitman, a soldier for organized crime.
How difficult would it be to do your job if there wasn't this free flow of arms coming from the United States?
It would be hard because the U.S. is the chief supplier. That's where we get the new exclusive guns we need.
27 suspected transnational TDA gang members indicted in a historic RICO conspiracy. Their alleged crimes began 2 years ago when they arrived in New York City from Venezuela seeking asylum, according to investigators.
The American dream is not doing armed robberies. The American dream is not discharging guns. The American dream is not shooting.
What on earth do people need this much ammunition for? That's crazy. This could arm a small army. And what nobody's talking about is this reveals that the criminals recently caught attacking Border Patrol agents, they probably got everything they used to commit crime from our country. And although it's against the law for those in the country without permission to own firearms, for some reason, these worst of the worst criminals are getting their hands on what look like military-grade weapons. Not just in Colorado or at the Texas border, but also in sanctuary cities like New York, where weapon-related laws are so tough, legal residents and law-abiding citizens are practically unable to buy such things. Yet criminals who don't abide by any of our laws seem to have no problem stocking up, which reveals just how tough a job Border Patrol has on the front lines of America's war on illegal immigration, a war that, if lost, could allow dangerous criminal groups to send our country into a downward spiral, which sadly could resemble the chaos taking place in various parts of Central and South America right now. And that brings us to the real reason Border Patrol agents were recently attacked and were seen fending for their lives while trying to keep our country safe. The people that are coming in here, they do not want anything to do with the American dream. Instead, they're here to take whatever they can from our country and use it to empower themselves and commit more crime, both here and in Mexico. Ammo, weapons, you name it, it's being taken out of our country and brought somewhere else. And it's also smuggled into the hands of dangerous individuals who should never be in our country, like these guys.
27 suspected transnational TDA gang members indicted in a historic RICO conspiracy. Their alleged crimes began 2 years ago when they arrived in New York City from Venezuela seeking asylum, according to investigators.
Whether it's gangs at the border or criminal gangs in New York, it's important to understand that all of these organizations, they are connected. And they're out there stealing and selling weapons to each other and cooperating as part of a growing criminal underworld. And as you're about to see, even though many of these people entered our country under the cover of darkness through a previously wide open border, which is still not 100% secure, allowing illegal immigration like this is not making the world a better place.
February 12, 2025, Border Patrol agents assigned to the U.S. Border Patrol Fort Brown Station Flex Team in Brownsville, Texas, were conducting ground surveillance to deter smuggling activities at a location approximately 17.5 miles east of the Veterans Bridge port of entry and 0.04 miles north of the Rio Grande River. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Central Standard Time, Fort Brown BPAs located a group of individuals occupying a GMC Denali pickup truck near a boat ramp off Highway 4 in Brownsville, Texas. BPAs reported that they believed the subjects were attempting to smuggle firearms into Mexico using a boat.
So here we have the shocking footage of Border Patrol agents encountering criminals who were trying to smuggle weapons from America into Mexico, and everybody here was in the country illegally. And what's shocking about this operation is these suspects, they were heavily armed, just like Border Patrol. But not only were these criminals strapped and ready for action in case Border Patrol showed up to stop their operation, when law enforcement was alerted to their operations by SpaceX, which apparently is nearby the location this took place, our officers had to quickly act because when they approached these crooks, as you're about to see, they did more than just evade arrest. So here we have body cam from one of the officers. 2 officers were equipped with cameras, and right now what they're doing is they're crouching down. There's no audio, because the way these body cameras work is they have a 2-minute buffer that is constantly recording before something happens and before an officer activates the camera. And what you're seeing now is them hiding in the bushes after locating these smugglers. And now the officers decide to move in. And what do? They make a run for the truck from multiple angles. They pull out their flashlights. And look at what happens right here. You've got a guy who runs out of the truck, and that guy is armed with a weapon. Now, this officer, he's by the driver of the truck, and he's got to stop the driver of that truck from trying to do anything reckless. This guy's hands are both outside of the vehicle. That's good. The officer can see them. But as you just saw, one of these guys exited the vehicle carrying something, and he ran around back away from the agent that approached the driver. And that move by the guy who escaped puts everybody in danger, as you're about to see. But already this appears to be a wild situation because Border Patrol's got these guys located. They're watching them. They've got them surrounded, yes, but these crooks were all the way out in the middle of nowhere. And they've probably done this hundreds of times before. These guys are professionals. And even though one guy exited the truck and tried to run away, there are still people inside that vehicle, and they're not exactly friendly.
Hey, I got the driver. Hey. No, mano. Hey, más que desgado. No, muevan las manos, Bájate. Acuéstate ahí. No, enseñan las manos.
So after this, we've got the second angle where the other 2 officers track down the guy who tried to run away. But thank God he was able to get the driver out of the truck and disarm him. And this is so important because that truck, if the person in it wanted to drive it in an erratic manner, that could put the officers in danger. Once the driver is removed from the truck and placed under arrest, then the officer goes inside to see what's in there and figure out what type of threat they're dealing with. Again, they might have found these guys, they might have snuck up on them, but they have no idea what they're doing inside that vehicle or who's even in there or how many people they're even dealing with. There's even a point where they say they hear voices of other smugglers who were waiting in a boat.
Did you get the bags? Hey, I hear voices.
But even though the people who these smugglers were meeting with managed to escape, the guys in this truck were taken down. So here we have the other 2 agents who were on the passenger side of the vehicle. This is their approach to that vehicle and their response. Once they get to the scene, the suspect that tried running away with a weapon has been apprehended, and they take this guy into custody as fast as they can. But while they're doing this, they recover a weapon from him that is pretty frightening to look at, to be honest with you. Look at that. That is not a toy. That's the real deal right there. These criminals were incredibly heavily armed. It's frightening that our soldiers have to go up against this stuff every single day on the border. And if you're gonna get your hands on something like that when you're inside America illegally, that is not the American dream. That's not the thing that we're told we need to have an open border so that anyone can get access to. This is bad news. But here we have a top-down angle of how this all went down.
The following is an animated overhead recreation of the incident. Please note that it is not to scale and is for illustration purposes only. The first video shown will be from this agent's point of view. As the agent approaches the driver of the vehicle, the driver's side rear passenger exits the vehicle brandishing an Anderson AM-15 rifle. Another responding agent approaches the rear of the vehicle as the armed subject makes his way around the vehicle. At the time of this incident, this agent was not issued a body-worn camera. The agent discharges his CBP-issued M4 rifle multiple times. Upon hearing the shots fired, 2 more agents respond to the scene and secure the subject and the weapon.
So as you can see from this graphic, these smugglers that were in their truck, they were completely surrounded. They were going to get captured. But apparently there was no way to capture the other half of their team, which was waiting for them in a boat and was able to get back across the river. And although this footage is pretty jarring to watch, this wasn't the equivalent of some Hollywood movie where a person gets up their courage and charges criminals to save the world. Border Patrol had a report that these guys were out there. They tracked them down, they surrounded them, and they coordinated their movements to take everyone down safely. But as you're about to see, these criminals, they're getting their weapons from other criminals who don't care at all about our laws, and they're using them to commit crime on both sides of the border.
He's a hitman, a soldier for organized crime.
How difficult would it be to do your job if there wasn't this free flow of arms coming from the United States?
It would be hard because the U.S. is the chief supplier. That's where we get the new exclusive guns we need.
Of the guns that have been seized in Mexico and traced, 70% come from the United States. There's a reason. It's hard to get a gun legally in Mexico. The regulations are extremely strict.
So in many parts of America, it's also pretty strict as far as who can own a weapon and who can't. In New York, where I am in particular, it's very strict. But even though not all states have the same gun requirements, gun rules aren't the issue here, because these criminals, they're not supposed to have a weapon at all anywhere, yet they're getting them somehow from people who conspire with them and help them break the law. Laws mean nothing to criminals. And the real problem here is that if America had been controlling its border for the last few years, we wouldn't have people inside our country who are trying to stock up on things they shouldn't own to begin with, which these thugs, these gangs, these hitmen then go and use in Mexico and in America to just bolster their criminal enterprises. This should be all the proof we need that there should be a border wall. That would be great for Mexico and America at the exact same time. But as you're about to see, an open, free-flowing border just empowers criminals.
And cartels use straw buyers in gun shops and shows to get Glocks, AK-47s, AR-15s, and even machine guns. It's this man's job to smuggle them across the border.
The truth is that it's very easy to get them across. We do hide them in the upholstery or where we can. But the customs agents here don't really focus on that, on searching you. They never search the car.
We saw that for ourselves when we made the journey from the US into Mexico on a busy Thursday night. There were no passport controls, we saw no border officers, and just 2 customs officials checked a sea of cars.
So this video was filmed back in 2019, and this is how things have been at the border for a long time. And you know what this shows us? This shows us that if you're gonna give criminals the opportunity to do their thing in your country, that puts everyone's rights in jeopardy, because how are these guys arming themselves? Well, they're paying off conspirators who can legally buy this stuff, who then just transfer it to them. Of course, that's against the law, but nothing's being done about it, and we're giving these criminals a two-way street in and out of our country. At least we were for a long time. Such a long time that these guys empowered themselves to a level where they are now endemic to Mexico. There's nothing the Mexican government right now is able to do to stop them. That's why they're still around. Some of these cartels have been around since the 60s. But allowing criminals to freely pass in and out of your country doesn't just make things worse for people in neighborhoods near the border. Oh no, it also makes things worse for people in neighborhoods everywhere, even up here in the Northeast.
An historic gang bust. Tren de Aragua is a violent Venezuelan gang that officials say slipped into the city pretending to seek asylum.
27 suspected transnational TDA gang members indicted in a historic RICO conspiracy. Their alleged crimes began 2 years ago when they arrived in New York City from Venezuela seeking asylum, according to investigators.
So in New York City, we've got the same problems that you've got in Mexico. We've invited criminals into our city. We haven't done anything to stop the prevalence and growth of this gang until recently. And what have they done? They've grown and they're getting their hands on weapons. They're becoming incredibly dangerous. They're putting everybody in our city in danger. And the weapons you see on the table here were confiscated from criminals living in apartments in our city, down the hall from families. This is incredibly disturbing, but none of it would have happened if these gang members had never been allowed in the country in the first place. But instead, we let them in without checking to see who they were, which allowed them to come into major cities and start recruiting all over the country. And this should be all the proof we need that a broken immigration system is the wrong way to do things here.
The American dream is not doing armed robberies. The American dream is not discharging guns. The American dream is not shooting.
Other TDA members are alleged to have pulled off a series of robberies on mopeds. President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, praised the work of the NYPD and Homeland Security for the takedown and removal of 33 guns, but criticized the city council for being the administration's adversary.
Why would you not want ICE to take possession of a terrorist member?
So the reason progressives in cities like New York that are sanctuary cities have such a problem with this is because every time gang members get taken down, it proves that having an open border is a bad idea. And the scary thing is that we're learning that this open border puts the rights of law-abiding Americans in jeopardy. The right to bear arms is guaranteed to all Americans, yet that right might have to go away if we allow anybody to come into our country and obtain weapons when they shouldn't, which puts everybody in danger, revealing that we don't have rights if we don't have borders and we can't control our own country. This is very frightening. And the fact of the matter is that if we had zero criminals in our country, the opportunity to collaborate with them would not exist. What do you think about that? Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.